Imagine waking up in a world where cleanliness has nothing to do with water.
Where the idea of being fresh is not a smell, but the absence of something worse.
It is the year 1348. The air around you is cold, heavy, unmoving. Every breath carries traces of smoke, sweat, and too many lives pressed together. You wake not rested, but alert. Your body feels stiff, already tired, as if the night itself demanded effort. There is no private space waiting for you. No mirror, no running water, no sense of renewal. In this world, the body is never fully safe. It is believed to be fragile, vulnerable to forces that move unseen through the air. Warmth is suspicious. Water is dangerous. Even comfort can invite sickness. People here do not fear dirt. They fear exposure. Survival begins with restraint, with knowing what not to touch, with understanding that staying alive often means leaving the body exactly as it is. This is not a story about neglect. It is the beginning of a daily negotiation with the limits of the human body. The day begins quietly, without ceremony. There is no rush toward comfort, only habits shaped by caution and repetition. Near your bed sits a shallow basin. The water inside is cold enough to sting the skin. You do not immerse yourself. That would be reckless. Instead, you dip a piece of coarse linen into the water and wipe your face, your hands, your mouth. Nothing more. This simple act is considered enough. Anything beyond it risks inviting harm. Medical belief warns that warmth weakens the body. Hot water is thought to soften the flesh, opening unseen passages where illness can enter. The skin must remain sealed, guarded against the poisoned air believed to drift through streets and homes alike. A thin layer of sweat, dust, and oil is not viewed as neglect. It is protection, a barrier between the body and a hostile world. Beneath your feet, the floor is covered with old rushes. Straw scattered weeks or even months ago still lies there, absorbing spills, food scraps, and daily waste. It dulls the cold of stone, but it also holds everything that falls from life indoors. Dressing is deliberate. Clothing is worn long and cleaned rarely. If you own linen, it touches your skin and carries the burden of cleanliness for you. The body itself remains largely untouched. Mourning rituals here are not about renewal. They are about minimizing risk and preparing to endure another day without safe ways to start over. As the hours pass and the sun climbs higher, your body begins to make itself known. It is never neutral in this world. It is something to be managed carefully, negotiated with throughout the day. Beneath layers of heavy wool and linen, sweat slowly forms. There is no relief from the moisture, no moment when the skin is fully exposed to air. Everything is contained, pressed inward, held against the body. You do not scrub yourself clean when the day ends. That would be unnecessary and dangerous. Salt, oil, and dust are allowed to remain, forming a thin protective layer believed to shield the skin from harmful air. This accumulation is not questioned. It is expected. In 1348, the human body is thought to be fragile. Too much exposure to air or water is believed to weaken the flesh, causing it to soften and open itself to unseen forces of decay drifting through the world. Pain becomes a quiet companion. Aches settle into the joints. Small sores appear without warning or explanation. These discomforts are not treated as emergencies. They are accepted as the basic cost of staying alive. Inside the body, life is just as crowded as the streets outside. Parasites are not an exception, they are a presence. Nearly every person carries worms in the gut, silent thieves drawing nourishment from meals already scarce. When a deep, hollow fatigue takes hold, you do not always blame the day's labor. Sometimes it is simply the exhaustion of sharing your body with organisms you cannot see. Even the mouth offers little refuge. Teeth are scrubbed with harsh mixtures of ash, salt, or crushed herbs. Not to perfect them, but to delay decay. The goal is simple: to keep chewing for one more year. In this world, the body is never fully trusted. It is a vulnerable machine, and survival depends on learning how much discomfort it can endure, while still moving forward. The city announces itself before it is fully seen. It arrives first through the air. As you step outside, the smell settles immediately. It is heavy, layered, inescapable. Smoke from hearth fires hangs low between narrow buildings. Animal bodies brush past human ones. Carts creak, voices echo, and the sound of life bounces endlessly off stone walls. The ground beneath your feet is uneven and damp. Mud mixes with straw, food scraps, and waste left behind from the day before. Rain does little to clean these streets. There is nowhere for the filth to go. Everything moves downward, guided by gravity rather than design. Buckets are emptied from upper windows. Refuse is tossed aside. What cannot be reused is simply shifted a few steps away. Animals move freely through the city, especially pigs. They consume what people discard, acting as living waste collectors. They reduce refuse while adding their own, blurring the line between cleanliness and contamination. The smell is constant but never simple. Rotting food blends with animal droppings and human waste. There is also the sharp, chemical bite of leather workshops, where urine and dung are gathered in open vats to cure hides. It stings the nose and clings to clothing long after you leave the street. Some people exist solely to keep the city from drowning in its own excess. They work under cover of darkness, lowering themselves into cesspits filled with months of decay. Their labor is essential, dangerous, and rarely acknowledged. The air below ground can turn lethal without warning. Above the streets, laws attempt to regulate waste and cleanliness. They are written, announced, and mostly ignored. The city produces more filth than rules can control. This is not a city that fails to function. It functions constantly, under pressure. Travelers often describe the smell as overwhelming, even violent. It is not exaggeration. It is the combined breath of thousands of lives pressed together within stone walls. To live here is to accept that the air itself is part of the struggle. Solutions exist, but they are shaped by necessity rather than comfort. There is no unified system, only improvised answers to a problem that cannot be ignored. In large houses and castles, waste is guided outward instead of away. A stone seat is built into the wall, positioned carefully above a pit, a moat, or open ground far below. Nothing is flushed. Nothing disappears. Gravity alone does the work. Over time, what collects beneath these structures becomes dangerous. In warm weather, the air rising from below can sting the eyes and tighten the chest. Yet even this hazard is repurposed. Fine garments are sometimes stored inside these chambers. The sharp fumes repel insects that would otherwise destroy expensive fabric. What smells unbearable becomes useful. Outside fortified walls, most people rely on shared latrines or simple wooden containers. These are emptied at night, carried through narrow streets when fewer eyes are watching. The work is done quickly, quietly, and without ceremony. Those assigned to this task face constant risk. They descend into dark pits where air can vanish without warning. A single breath can be fatal. Some never return. Rules exist to control where waste is dumped and how often pits must be cleared. They are written, enforced briefly, and frequently ignored. The volume of waste grows faster than regulation can manage. There is no illusion of cleanliness here, only the effort to delay collapse. Sanitation is not a service designed to protect health. It is a fragile balance maintained through labor few are willing to see, let alone acknowledge. The body absorbs the cost of this environment slowly, day after day. Illness here is not an interruption of life. It is woven into it. Without effective sanitation, infection moves easily from surface to skin, from hand to mouth. Diseases do not arrive suddenly and then disappear. They linger, repeat, and return in cycles. Recovery is partial. Relapse is expected. Inside nearly every person lives something else. Parasites are common companions, draining strength quietly over time. They feed on nutrients already scarce, leaving bodies thinner, weaker, and constantly fatigued. Children grow accustomed to discomfort early. Adults learn to work through pain without naming it. Weakness is not always treated as a warning sign. It is endured. Yet alongside this constant exposure, something else develops. The human body adapts. Immune systems are shaped by necessity, trained to tolerate levels of bacteria that would overwhelm a modern body. Infections that might now require hospitalization are met instead with alcohol, vinegar, and herbal remedies. These treatments do not cure disease, but they sometimes slow its advance. Knowledge is passed quietly from one generation to the next. Which plant eases fever? Which mixture cleans a wound? Which drink dulls pain long enough to sleep? This is not ignorance. It is survival within limits that cannot yet be understood or controlled. Health in this world is not the absence of disease. It is the ability to continue working, eating, and living despite it. The body does not resist this life by remaining untouched. It survives by adapting to constant exposure and enduring what cannot be avoided. When we look back at this world, it is easy to focus on what is missing: the absence of clean water, the absence of sanitation, the absence of comfort. But what defines this era is not neglect. It is limitation. People are not unaware of their suffering. They live inside it, shaped by constraints they cannot escape and systems that do not yet exist. Cleanliness, as we understand it today, is not a daily habit here. It is a rare achievement, tied to wealth, labor, and fragile structures that barely hold together. And yet, life continues. Work is done. Children grow. Cities endure, even as they strain under the weight of their own waste. The struggle of this world is not against dirt alone, but against an invisible reality that cannot yet be named or understood. Disease, decay, and biology move freely, unchecked by knowledge or infrastructure. To survive in this time is to negotiate constantly with the body, accepting pain, adapting to exposure, and relying on endurance rather than control. They do not know that within months, the Black Death will reach these streets. By the time it recedes, nearly half of England's population will be gone. The world they struggle to endure will never look the same again.